Hi there, welcome to today's video. I'm Natasha of Natasha Miller Creates, and today I'm setting up my bullet journal for 2025. This year I chose an Archer and Olive Steffi collaboration journal. It's a B5 size. I've been using a B5 size now for a number of years, and it's definitely my go-to size. My journal lives on my desk, so having a bigger journal is definitely not an issue for me, and I really enjoy having the extra space throughout the year to set up my layouts and my monthly setups. Well, I do enjoy creative journaling. I actually use my bullet journal in a very functional way. The creative part is for my mental wellness, and it's something that I enjoy doing. And then throughout the month, I'm able to stay organized and stay on top of my to-do list. Every month, I start my monthly setup with a hand-lettered cover page. And for my 2025 bullet journal setup, I am doing the same. The quote I chose is, "The distance is nothing when one has a motive." It's a quote from a Jane Austen novel, and the reason why I chose this is sometimes it feels like our goals or our dreams are taking forever, but if you stay the course and you remember why you're doing it, you're more inclined to keep going. The irony is that my son has started competitive swimming, and honestly, I think that's why it stood out to me. The distance is nothing when one has a motive, so if you want to finish first, then suck it up and go faster, or something along those lines, or less competitive. So my hand-lettered cover pages, I do these myself in Procreate, and it's fun and a way that I stay on top of practicing my lettering. Now, if you can't tell, I am working with a new sound system. It's been a bit of an adjustment, and another reason why this video is not coming out as early as I would have liked it to. I'm very lucky in that I was able to upgrade my computer, and of course it has some quirks that I need to figure out and get used to. But we're starting off my bullet journal setup with my future log. I like to have my future log as my first pages, mostly because it helps get rid of that new notebook jitters when that blank page is staring up at you. Sometimes it can be overwhelming and you don't know what to do. And so by defaulting to the same page for every new bullet journal, I find it helps get over those nerves and a little bit of that anxiety of starting a new journal. For my 2025 setup, I'm using a stamp set by Altenew. I've linked all my supplies down below so you can go check that out. But the Altenew stamp set is being used for my headings across my pages for my setup. I'm also using a smaller stamp set by Studio L2E, and that is for my smaller headings, and you'll see when I stamp the months of the year. And then for my decorative elements, I'm using a stamp set by Feed Your Craft. Unfortunately, Feed Your Craft no longer exists, which is really sad, but I do have similar stamp sets linked down below. And then the final stamp set I use is a Studio Calico stamp set. For my stamping, I'm relying on my favorites, which is the Distress Oxide line by Tim Holtz and the VersaFine pigment ink for fine details. I do have a video on how to pick the best stamp ink for your bullet journal. I've linked that up in the cards and down below. So if stamping is something you want to get into, I do have a stamping series playlist that you can go check out and see how you can get started. I'm just going to take a moment to be honest here. I'm editing this voiceover as I go, and the setup that I have going on right now, I'm shocked you can't hear my heartbeat. I feel like this mic is picking up every tiny little sound and every tiny little thing that is happening, and it's going to be a bit of an adjustment. So please be patient with me for this video. I will have this figured out by my next one. Yeah, it's an interesting learning curve right now. So I'm using a technique right now called masking. It's a very simple concept. Using sticky notes, you cover parts of the page that you want to keep clean and clear of the stamped image. You stamp over top of the sticky note, and then you create these borders. So I'm using my sticky notes to keep the areas where I'm going to be stamping my calendars clear, and just making sure that I have my decorative element within that band of the title. I am covering advanced stamping techniques in one of the final videos of my stamping series. And this is the kind of advanced techniques that I look at and I talk about and introduce you to if stamping's new to you. I do want to point out the fact that my stamping throughout this video is imperfect. I feel like there is this huge pressure to be perfect when you're stamping. And when you're stamping in your bullet journal, it's what you make of it. You can make it precise and clean and clear and perfect, but you are going to end up frustrated a lot of the times, and you're going to want to rip out your pages or start a new notebook or any of those feelings that we've all felt at some point on our bullet journaling journey. What I like to do when I'm stamping is try and keep it rough and imperfect and embrace that imperfect. And that way it looks more intentional and kind of the imperfections get lost. So on the left-hand side of the page, you can see that I have an imperfect stamp that I tried to line up to fill the middle of the stamp, and it didn't work out very well. But you're going to see once the setup is all done, that mistake disappears into the overall look and aesthetic of the page. So even if you make a mistake along the way, just keep going, stay the course, and it may surprise you how it turns out. As always, I am cutting tabs into my pages. My tabs tend to be 2 of the dot grids thick, and then I like to color in my tabs with the Acrylographs, which is an acrylic paint-based pen. I feel that it strengthens the tab a little bit better, and that way I can easily page through the pages that I need to get to. For my color palette for my setup, I decided to choose some fun colors. The Distress Oxide inks I'm using is Broken China, Salvaged Patina, Antique Linen, Walnut Stain, and Saltwater Taffy. These colors remind me of like a Neapolitan ice cream, or I'm not sure. They're very familiar, they're very nostalgic, and I can't quite put my finger on why. So if you maybe have an idea of why these colors seem so familiar, let me know down below. And by that I mean, if they're familiar to you too, maybe share why, and that might trigger a memory for me so that I can put together why these colors are so, well, I want to say triggering, but triggering in a good way. Now, I may need to claim temporary insanity at this point. I decided instead of drawing lines with a ruler that I was going to do my lines as dots. This took forever, but I don't regret my decision other than the fact that my hand was a little bit tired by the time it was done. I'm using my Tom Studio Lumos pen with a 1.0 nib. It's a great pen. I really love it. You can change out the nibs as you go, and I'm a huge fan of the pen. I am an affiliate, and I have linked the code down below that you can go check out, but really I do enjoy using this pen. I'm using the masking technique to cover up the main part of my page so that I can add some color to the edge. This is where the tabs kind of sit when they're open, and I didn't want it to just be blank paper and make it look like this layout just kind of ends in the middle of a page or not quite to the end of the page. And so I decided to add some color there. And as always, I'm adding borders to my pages. This is something I learned when I first started bullet journaling back in 2017. Michelle Baxter, who is still on Instagram, she's not teaching as much anymore, but she was the one that put me on to adding borders to my page, and now I can't not do it because it tends to look unfinished. So right now I'm adding rough circles to the edges of my stamp circles. So when I talked about embracing the imperfect, this is kind of what I was referring to, where just freehanding some circles and making it look rough on purpose. So sometimes when I started drawing a circle around the stamped image, it would be a little bit too clean, and I would go in and add a second line just to make it look a little less perfect and a little bit more messy. By doing this, I was able to kind of take the attention away from where my stamping was less than perfect and make everything look a little bit more intentional. For my monthly headings, I'm using a half circle stamp, and I'm going in and alternating colors throughout the 12 months and stamping them to the top of the square that I've designated for that month. I thought this was a fun way to incorporate the circles in the headings and as well add more color instead of just having that one colorful strip down the middle of the page. This way the color is kind of more balanced across the layout. Now's the time to mention there was one more stamp set that I used that I forgot to mention, and that is my mini calendar stamp set. This is available on my website. I've linked it down below. I only have a couple sets left, so if you want one, now would be the time to grab it. Now, in between changing colors, I am cleaning the stamp so that I don't get any color transfer. I'm using a stamping chamois. Mine is from scrapbook.com, and I'm also using a scrubber pad. So the stamp chamois is just wet with water, and then I use the scrubber pad to just dry it off and make sure I'm getting water out of the nooks and crannies. You definitely don't need both. I use both because I have both. You can definitely use one or the other and have really good results. You might be thinking, if you're not familiar with bullet journaling, what is a future log? This is very basic and straightforward. It's basically a year at a glance. So I'm stamping down every month and writing down any important events for that month. So for example, if we have travel plans coming up, birthdays, big events that are planned, in my case for meets, and then I will just go through and add it to this future log so that I can see everything all together in one place. Now I'm relying on my Studio L2E stamp set, Basic Alphas I believe, to just stamp the first letter of the month in the half circle. If you are hand lettering, you can just probably do the full month. For me, because the half circles were smaller, it made more sense just to do the first letter of the month. So an organic teachable moment when I accidentally stamped September under October, and it was a really quick fix. I just stamped the right month on a piece of sticker paper and then stuck it under October, and that was it. And as you can see from far, you can barely tell that there even was a mistake. And then one of my favorite things to do, to go in with a gray Tombow in N89, which is a light gray color, and just highlight every second line so that it's quicker and easier to see where to write the next item. Now to tie my layout all together, I'm outlining the half circles just like I did the stamped circles in the middle portion of the setup, and I really love how it came out. Yes, there were a lot of mistakes and the stamping wasn't that clean, but I thought that altogether this just looked so fun. My next layout is a books, kind of a tracker, I guess. I would love to have a reading journal and make a reading journal however many times, but I don't get to read as much as I would like. I absolutely love reading and I really do enjoy it, but it's not something I make a lot of time for. There are other things that I choose to make time for, so that reading has kind of taken a back seat. So in the last week, I actually finished 3 audiobooks. They were part of the same series and they were really fun to listen to, but it's not quite the same as reading. At least when you're reading, you kind of get to set the characters up in your own mind, their voices, their personalities, or the intonations when they're talking, and or any dialogue or thinking that they're doing. So I really do miss that from actually reading a book versus listening to an audiobook. But at the same time, right now, audiobooks are just so much more convenient. I listen to them while I do my setups. I listen to them while I do my work. It's just a lot easier right now, and that's fine. I just think I need to embrace that a little bit more instead of feeling like I should read actual physical books all the time. So since I feel like I can't justify a full journal just for reading, I set up this page in my new bullet journal setup. For my tracker, I include a title, author, and then I indicate whether it's fiction, non-fiction, an audiobook, an ebook, or an actual book, and then just a simple 5-star rating. And the column at the very front is actually for ticking off the books as I finish them. Now, to tie in the theme that I chose for this this complete setup, I am adding that fun circle border to the top of the page here. And again, I'm using the masking technique to cover the parts of the page that I don't want ink on. And you'll see me do this throughout the setup. It was a lot of fun to do. And like I said, once I was done, it was so fun to see it all come together. For a getting to know you better segment, the books I'm currently choosing to read are actually super cheesy romantic murder mystery books. They're so quick and easy, and really it doesn't take much brain power to process the story, which is why I think I really enjoy listening to them while I work, because they don't require my full attention. I've tried listening to nonfiction books, and I find that it really distracts me from the work I'm trying to do in the background because I'm trying to engage with the content more, versus my cheesy little murder mysteries are fantastic for just having on in the background and then getting things done. For the last couple of years, I've been listening to vintage kitchen mysteries, and I really enjoyed the books, the ones that I've read. I found that the audiobook was a little bit annoying and a little bit grating, and again, this is the downside of audiobooks. It depends on the narrator, and I found this narrator to kind of turn the main character into this whiny, kind of self-righteous, little bit pathetic person, which when you read the books, that's not quite who she is. But like I said, the downside of audiobooks is that it can turn you off of a series. I haven't listened or read to a vintage kitchen mystery for a while now, and I definitely have a lot more left to go in the series, but I'm just taking a bit of a break because honestly the narrator does irritate me a little bit. Books of note that I read last year would include Big Swiss and The Lost Apothecary. Big Swiss was okay. I think the book did what it was supposed to do. I don't want to ruin it or spoil it, so I'm going to leave it at that. But as much as I found the ending to be blah, I guess, it kind of doesn't make sense for it to end any other way. That one I'm still sitting with and thinking about, but The Lost Apothecary lives rent-free in my head. I loved that book. It was so fun to read, and it definitely just keeps you thinking about it, especially in today's climate of what is being considered acceptable behavior by some men. But I will leave it there because that's not what this video is about. We're just doing my setup for next year. Another book I started but never finished was Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. I didn't finish that because it was a physical book, so it was taking me a little bit longer to get through. I do plan on finishing that one. The stories I'd read so far, I did enjoy it, so I do want to revisit that one. I'm really leaning more toward the, I don't want to say mind-numbing, but the easier reads for sure, and less controversial reads for sure. I do follow Book Talk, so I have a general idea of the climate of the book world. Yes, I am kind of just sitting here in my own little corner, not getting involved to a degree. I don't know. Like I said, maybe I do set up a reading journal while I'm talking to you and editing this and thinking about it. It doesn't have to be completely full of anything. It can just be there to help process things, like how I felt about reading Big Swiss or how I felt about reading The Lost Apothecary. So I don't know, maybe I will start a reading journal this year. So watch this space if that's something you're interested in watching. So just like my previous layouts, I did the border using dots, which again took forever. My hand hated me. And finishing up the circles by going in and drawing rough lines around them. And again, this is to tie all the pages together and to have that theme throughout the setup. A little more background. A part of my degree is in English literature, so I spent a lot of time reading books that either I didn't want to or having to reflect on some very heavy topics. So now, as I'm getting older, I'm allowing myself to read for fun and things that I enjoy without feeling the pressure of reading the latest and greatest and having an opinion on something. So, which is fine if you do, but I'm choosing to sit that one out. The next page I'm setting up is for my courses. Now, back in the day, I would sign up for every course I could, and which is great if I'm expanding my knowledge or my experience. But What ended up happening was I would sign up for the course and forget about it. And I have been setting up a courses layout for the last 3 years. Sometimes it's the same courses that get repeated because I never finish them. Occasionally, I'll add a new course, but for 2025, one of my focuses will be to get through a lot of these courses. In 2024, I was better, and I think I maybe bought one course, and that is a huge improvement for me. It's still a lot of courses, but it was definitely a big improvement in terms of buying. So I'm one of those people who believe I'm not good enough, and in order to procrastinate, I just take more courses to learn more, to the point where I know what I need to do, but now I am absolutely paralyzed at the thought of having to do it. So that will be a focus for 2025 as well, is to kind of work through this paralysis and kind of accept that I do have an inkling of what I'm doing, and I definitely do not need to buy any more courses. For this layout, it's pretty similar to the book layout we just finished. I have the name of the course, the teacher, the platform it's on. I've decided to add a rating system to it, and then whether it's paid and if I've finished it. So for the paid, there are courses that I may have downloaded for free or gotten a PDF to do for free. So I just wanted to differentiate between what I spent money on and what's a free download, so that way I can spend more time on the courses that I've actually spent money on. And so we'll see how this goes. Adding the rating is new for this layout. This is my first time doing the rating. There are definitely teachers. So basically, I feel like everybody has a course now, and not all courses and not all teachers are created equal. So there are definitely courses that I will consider buying from certain people versus just kind of buying any course on any topic. I feel, especially in the niche that I am looking at, there are a lot of courses that are the same, and they're main players that are offering very in-depth classes. So I tend to stick to those versus the smaller guys that may be doing a variation of what these big names are doing. So I don't know, it's hard. It's hard not to feel like you're being taken advantage of with all the courses that are out there, especially when you look at the TikTok influencers that say, I made $500,000. Take my course to see how you too can get $5 million. Or, I'm not talking about those courses. I'm talking about, I was going to say how to improve your social media, but not even those. I feel like those courses have become very predatory too, but more like art courses, how to do surface pattern design, how to paint with watercolor, how to create this, how to do that, versus the more predatory courses. Now, my next layout, I wanted to have a space for the goals that I want to work on this year, and then also at least 2 projects. So 1 project per quarter is basically how I'm looking at this. And then for my goals, it's not so much the heavy work, but just a place where my goals can live. Right now, I've done work on my goals within Notion, and I'm using Notion for my goal planner. And I will just be writing down the main goals that I have in my bullet journal. And then, like I said, on the left-hand side of the page, I'll have a project section where I can kind of keep track of the projects I'll be working on. So for example, one of the projects is to improve my blog, and I will be having that there and then writing the actions down. So what I need to do to accomplish that goal. So what's wrong with the blog? How do I fix it? What can I outsource? What can I do myself? And so on and so forth. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. So for the projects, I am including the name, the goal that the project is tied to, my due date that I want to accomplish this goal by, and then a breakdown of the action steps to accomplish or to finish the project. I wanted to include as much space as possible on these action steps. I'm probably going to need more than I've included just because I really need to break it down into tiny little bits so that my brain doesn't get overwhelmed or tired or see it as this huge insurmountable nightmare. which some of these bigger projects feel like they are. It's just taking me a long time to get around to it. So I feel like the smaller the steps, the easier and more digestible the project will feel. I've been toying with the idea of setting up a projects journal. Now, those projects won't necessarily be goal-oriented projects, but just rather creative projects that I want to take on. So, well, for example, setting up a projects journal. I've been working on these haunted Halloween houses. I bought a $10 Michael's grab bag, and there were some wood elements in there that I want to repurpose. So kind of projects like that, or creative projects that, again, don't really tie to a goal. So this is something that I've been stewing on. I'm still trying to figure out what I would need in terms of the layout, what would work for me. But yeah, I think that might be something that I work on for 2025 as well. So the last layout that I'm setting up as part of this setup is for my word of the year. Now, last year I did this and I captured all of the words that were contenders for my word of the year. However, this year I decided I'm going to pick my one word, and this is where I'm going to be doing the work for that word. I signed up for Ali Edwards' Word of the Year course, never did it, but I am going to be working on that this year. I meant to do it for 2024 and I didn't. So I really want to have better intentions and stick to those intentions. And so we'll see how it goes. I figured having one page versus one page every month is less intimidating. So we'll see how it goes. I'm still deciding on my word of the year. I want to see if there's something that sounds better. So I'm toying with the idea of having my word of the year be consistency, but that kind of sounds boring. But at the same time, though, having this page to work on that. So what does consistency mean to me? How does consistency look like for me? So maybe that's it. Maybe I will go ahead with that. Let me know if you want me to share that process with you and how I will be working with my word of the year. And then, of course, I wanted to tie this page into the rest of the setup as well. So I'm adding my patterns, my circles, and the colors in as well. Just to circle back, I still can't pinpoint why these colors are so nostalgic to me. So please, please, please share down below if you've made it this far in the video. Let me know why this is so nostalgic, and if it's nostalgic for you too. I would really appreciate it. I will say, as far as color schemes go, this one is definitely one of the favorites I've worked with in a while. You'll probably see this color scheme pop up again because I really do like it. So maybe I'll create a pattern with it. I know it's got a baby, like newborn baby kind of an esque feel to it. So the challenge would be how to make it modern and how to make it appeal to older people. I do enjoy my surface pattern design, but going into baby fabrics and kid fabrics, or I don't know, I feel like that market's a lot more saturated. So having the challenge of making something age appropriate across the board versus just for the little guys. So this is my full finished setup for 2025 in the first bullet journal. Like I said, I normally go through 2. Let me know what you think. And I hope you found this setup helpful. Thank you so much for watching today. And for more bullet journal content, check out one of these 2 videos below. See you over there.